Democrats want Republicans to agree to continue funding the Affordable Care Act, whereas Republicans want to use that money to add crab legs to the omelet station at Mar-a-Lago.
It's day one of the government shutdown, and the Washington blame game is in full swing. Take a listen.
We're not going to engage in bipartisan discussions while Democrats are holding the federal government hostage.
If it isn't entertainment, this is a really show.
It's one thing to say that we should solve the healthcare crisis for Americans. It's another thing to say that we're going to shut down the government.
The callousness of this president, where he's basically threatening people's lives, threatening their employment, threatening their careers.
They prioritize taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens over keeping the government open.
That is a damn lie.
Here's what this means as a practical matter. There will be delays to federal worker pay, as well as possible delays to critical functions like Social Security and SNAP benefits. And hanging over all of this is the White House threat of mass permanent layoffs to the federal workforce.
When you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and they're Democrats. They're going to be Democrats.
We believe that layoffs are imminent.
As for next steps, the Senate doesn't reconvene until Friday, meaning that this shutdown will last for at least 3 days. Joining me now to break all of this down is Congressman Brendan Boyle, a ranking Democratic member of the House Budget Committee. Congressman Boyle, thank you for joining us. Where are we with this? What is the state of play right now? What are the backroom deals and conversations that are happening, if any at all?
Yeah, great to be with you. And what's really frustrating is those conversations aren't taking place. I was in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol this week. A couple hundred of my Democratic colleagues were there as well. And if you walked around the Capitol, something you would not find was a Republican colleague. Speaker Mike Johnson canceled session we were supposed to be in on Monday and Tuesday. He outright canceled it, sent all of his members home. So it's pretty clear they wanted this shutdown. They ensured that it would happen. Now, I know the Senate is coming back in session on Friday, and I understand we'll be in session over the weekend. But as of right now, the House isn't even scheduled to return by the Republicans' own design, not scheduled to return until Tuesday.
The Republicans may be out of the building, but they do have a unified message about this shutdown. And the message is that this is the Democrats' fault. How does your party counteract this messaging and remind voters that this is a president whose party controls the White House and both houses of Congress? This seems like something they could have avoided.
Yeah, there's no question about it. As you just pointed out, Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. This is the Republican shutdown. I would also point out a big difference between this time versus over the last 30 years when Republicans forced every single shutdown. They were forcing those shutdowns because, frankly, they just don't believe in government and they want to shut it down. You don't hear me, you don't hear one of my Democratic colleagues saying they want a government shutdown. My Senate Democratic colleagues, in fact, have a bill that would reopen the government immediately, but crucially would also ensure that all of those devastating cuts to our health care that will cost millions and millions of Americans their health insurance, that those cuts also don't take effect.
So Democrats have been emphasizing that the reason for this shutdown, why we've been brought to the brink of a shutdown, is because the Republicans will not give on the restoration of those health care cuts. Is that going to resonate with voters? And would it have been possible to expand the message to focus not just on health care, but on the fact that we don't want to fund ICE enforcement in this particular way? We don't want to fund the deployment of the military to cities to assist with domestic local crime enforcement. Aren't there other messages that might resonate just as well, maybe more so with all of the voters right now, given the things that we are seeing?
Yeah, I was interested in your previous conversation, so let me just offer a few thoughts. First, I would say that our primary message is that this is about healthcare, just because those cuts literally begin, well, they begin today, October 1st. That is a result of the legislation that was passed in the Trump Republican reconciliation bill. I would remind you, Congressional Budget Office projects more than 15 million Americans will lose their health care and premiums for those who will still be on the Obamacare exchanges will literally double overnight. So that has been the primary message. But that's not the only message. For example, I have an op-ed that I published a couple months ago in which I pointed out the problem with rescissions. Now, I know that no voter of mine or constituent here in Philadelphia is bringing up rescissions to me. But this is a really important point, because how can I vote for anything on any given day knowing that the very next day Russell Vote can take away the concessions that were just made in order to win my support? This is an incredibly serious issue. We're talking about the power of Congress to be a co-equal branch of government. So that is something that I've been harping on. It absolutely needs to be part of any agreement that we reach.
So the House Republicans, as you say, are not in D.C. right now, and the Senate will not be reconvening until Friday. How long are the Democrats prepared to hold out, and how do you intend to exert pressure on the Republicans?
Well, I've made it clear, and I only speak for myself, I cannot in good conscience vote for something that does not see real rescissions reform, again, because I don't believe in being played for a sucker. I don't believe in giving up my one true power, which is my vote, on a promise from the likes of Russell Vote or Donald Trump. So that needs to be in there, as well as relief for health care. I'll also say, go back to your previous question, the previous conversation, I don't disagree with any of those important priorities that we need to continue to fight for. But let's not forget, when you're in a messaging war, if you make it about everything, in a sense, you've made it about nothing.